So let's talk about um like for both of you, did you guys always know you wanted to be like you guys wanted to do music? Was that always your calling or is this something that recently?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been writing for a little over 10 years now. Started playing in a band in high school. And pretty early on, I was like really excited about the songwriting aspect of it. So from those first couple years of playing, did a lot of like self-recording, EPs.
Nice.
But yeah, over the years, really was committed to like putting out more complete bodies of work. So that's where kind of like the album started coming. Um, and then in 2016, around that time, this iteration of the band, the Morning Herald, began. Really just through a lot of self-recorded tapes, using Logic, putting it on Spotify.
Nice.
So COVID hit, that kind of switched to more professional recording. And since then, kind of had like two studio albums under our belt, and finally got around the past couple months to giving like a proper full band performance level to the group. So that's where Andy came in about 8 months ago. Um, and that's been just super exciting since that's all come together.
Sweet.
Yeah, and like Zach said, kind of similar backstory to him, but I grew up playing guitar, always knew that I was super interested in music and wanted to be in and around music, I think, for my career. And been kind of playing just for 13, 14 years now. When I ran into Zach, he had the perfect band to kind of join up with, and they were looking for a rhythm guitar. So it all worked out.
Awesome. Let's talk about like inspirations. Who would you guys say are like your, you know, favorite? I guess, well, let me ask this because I guess it's different of more of like who do you listen to and who do you appreciate versus who do you want your music to sound like kind of thing,
For
I
sure.
feel,
Yeah.
like so I guess who yeah, I guess let's talk about you guys personally, like who would you say your inspirations are, like the kind of musicians you like, and then we could talk more about your music and like the kind of sound you guys want to put out.
Yeah, Andy, you want to
Yeah.
kick it off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can definitely speak to like my inspirations as a guitarist, and I think it's a good segue to kind of toss like the musical inspirations behind the Morning Herald over to Zach. But like I grew up in like a hugely music centered household, and my dad was always a huge classic rock fan. So like growing up, it was always Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, Clapton, BB King, like
Yes.
blues legends, like everybody like that was just kind of on repeat on this old record player that we had. And I think I was always like surrounded by that and kind of took inspiration from them when I wanted to start playing. I started when I was about 13 years old, and my mom got me a guitar for my 13th birthday. And like at that point in my life, it was very much like the teen angst pop punk phase. I was big on, 30 Seconds to Mars, Paramore, like all those bands, the classic early 2000s.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But today I think I get it from a lot of different places. Like I appreciate the legend still, of course, but anything John Mayer, John Frusciante, Gary Clark Jr., Tosh Sultana, like people who are just like really experimenting with different sounds on the guitar, like really, really look up to them and love their music.
Tosh Sultana. That's crazy you said that. That's out there. That's good. That's
Yeah.
crazy. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was a great background there. I think like I've always kind of been born and bred in like the indie rock, grew up in that circuit. So, but listening to like Arcade Fire my whole life, and like those guys are just
Oh yeah.
awesome. I think that's where a lot of like the theatricality and like scale of everything that we're trying to do came from. Right now we got 5 members. If we could make that 9, that would be great. It's like keep growing it. But yeah, those guys, I mean, like the Killers are a big one. They're classics. Grew up listening to like Noel Gallagher and Oasis, so like I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
that seeped in a ton. But
Nice.
yeah, and then like I think as far as the inspiration for like the music as of late, like the whole thing that Kevin Parker does with Tame, is awesome.
Genius.
Yeah, and
Crazy guy.
I feel like owe a lot to like Alex Turner vocals too. I think get a lot of comparisons to that as well.
Really? Not really. That wasn't like a really like surprising, really, but like that's good. You know,
Very
that's
accurate
good.
comparisons, I'd say.
Yeah,
They're well warranted.
Appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. So let's wow, okay. So you guys, I'm glad that you guys all have these like you guys have these inspirations that I actually also listen to, so I don't have to like pretend like, you know, like I know what you guys are talking about. Like I actually know what you guys are talking about. So like I guess this part is more for me. Like what um let's see, do you guys like who would you guys say is a better guitarist? David Gilmour or Jimmy Page?
Oh.
I think you got this one, Andy.
I mean, that's such a tough question because like there's so many facets to like who's a better guitarist. You talk about Page like revolutionizing the art form almost in a sense and doing like the bowstring guitar and all that stuff.
Right.
But some of the solos that Gilmour's written, I think from what he's produced, I would always go like Pink Floyd and like Comfortably Numb forever. Just an absolute beautiful, beautiful song. I think it's more opinion for me. I would lean Gilmour and Pink Floyd, but I don't want to say that he's a better guitarist by any mean because you can't disrespect Jimmy Page by saying anybody is really a
Right.
better guitarist than him.
It's hard. It's hard. Oh my God. And Zach, like for you, who like what I'm assuming you're a Radiohead fan, right?
Yeah, I do like
Yeah.
Radiohead for sure.
So you know, are you of the Radiohead albums, like are you like I will put OK Computer on like anytime, any day, and like that'll just send me to heaven? Or are you like I could listen to Kid A and appreciate like the, you know, their choices behind this?
I love the question. Between the two, I'm OK Computer. I love that record. I mean, the Benz is also a fave of mine.
Incredible.
So
Yeah, right.
I think those two, between those two, I feel like for a long time I was really into just really sad Radiohead music. Like lately I've like started getting more into like the really interesting stuff that they started doing around Kid A. So yeah, even like Body Snatchers off of In Rainbows, like I was listening to that at a time while we were recording our new album. So there's like a lot of tone that was derived from that type of vibe.
Great segue. I was like again, like my last interview, I was telling the guys, I was like, I asked them one question and then they answered like the next four. Is just the way that it works. You know what I mean? Like it's just all so well related. So your inspirations for this album, let's see, is that the, I guess I don't want to make sure we're talking about the same album.
Yeah.
Because it was the one that Marcus played a song for me.
Yeah, most recent one is Gold Star.
That's the one. Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that. So what were the sounds, you know, what was there a certain emotion you were trying to evoke? Was there, you know, was the writing process, you know, how personal was that? You know, all that. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, like, so the last two records that have come out, Gold Star and Rounder before it, that was actually like me behind the scenes doing everything. So that was before Andy got joined on, and the other guys, as we've like put together the performance aspect of it.
Gotcha.
But like the past two albums have really been me just kind of like flexing singer-songwriter all over it. So I had been in Boston, started a relationship with someone, and about a month before moving to New York, relationship dissolved, and kind of took that as a chance to be like, all right, I'm gonna dive headfirst into the breakup sophomore album situation. So figured I'd give that a try. So that was kind of the backbone behind everything. But at the same time, it wasn't like, you know, I was taking a listen to all the breakup albums of the day, but kind of wanted it to be more about achievement versus falling backwards into everything. And so that's where like this idea of like Gold Star reaching for like achievement instead of like crumbling in a given situation. Still a certain amount of heartbreak thrown in there though. So at the time I was listening to a lot of like expanding the palette beyond just indie rock. I was listening to like a lot of Kendrick actually at the time, and song System Quarterback. I don't know if you've heard that one yet, but that kind of started as my attempt to like make a Drake song, and it just doesn't sound anything like Drake. But at the time I was like, man, Drake could drop in on this and it'd be great. But
that's kind
other
of
than that, yeah, or go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just quick thing. Sorry to interrupt, but like that's kind of like what Tyler did with the like Smucker. I don't know if you're a fan of Tyler the Creator, but like he was like, what's a song that you would never hear Lil Wayne or Kanye on, and then you're like, it doesn't sound anything like a Drake song, but I'm sure Drake could just hop in on it, and it's like, whoa, I never thought that Drake could hop in on a song like that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it works.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned Tyler because I was listening to Igor. Like that definitely slipped in. Yeah. Radiohead, like you mentioned. And then of course, like Tame Impala and Gorillaz were like two other ones. I think like trying to draw into that like electronic territory.
Very production.
Right. Absolutely.
You hear it come through, I think, with So Long Good Time, especially. It's very Tame-esque. Yeah.
I know, yeah. I think like the word I kept throwing around is just like vibey. It's got to sound more vibey. And like, luckily the producer I was working with out of Philly, he was like reading my mind is when I would just throw these words at him.
That's important to have like a producer who knows how to translate that, right? I feel like. Yeah. Andy, do you have anything that you want to add before we move on?
No, I think when it comes to like the inspiration behind the songwriting and the album making for Rounder and Gold Star, like I'll always kind of defer to Zach. Like he did the production, the songwriting, the soundwriting on that all on his own. And like we're kind of the new iteration of the band now for the performance lineup that we have upcoming. But like those are all his break children.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Let's talk about, I guess, performing versus recording, right? So you guys just recently performed at the Bowery Electric, which, by the way, like when Marcus mentioned that, I was like I knew I went to school in New York. I went to NYU, so I'm very familiar with like LES and like just East Village area. So like when he said Bowery Electric, I want to say that's Soho, or is that's the Bowery is by?
Yeah, I think it's like on the border, like Lower East Side. I guess that's how I would like classify it a little more, but
it's on Bowery. It's on Bowery, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about performing at a venue, and also I'll cut that part out, by the way. But let's start again. So let's talk a little bit about performing and recording. I'm sure that there's a huge difference. What would you guys say are some of the differences that you've noticed or challenges that you've been able to overcome while recording and or performing?
Yeah, I mean, number one for me, I think there's like a freedom to it now. I think the reason that held me back from performing a lot of these is, like you mentioned, there is a lot of production that goes into it. And for a long time, like the idea of trying to replicate that on stage was daunting. And I think the thing that's been most exciting about Andy and the other guys joining in is how committed everyone's been to not only referring back to like the original source material of the album, but then taking that to the next level. We have one song that was on the Rounder album called The Captain, and always a song that like in my eyes wasn't at like the level I wanted it to be when I was recording it, I think. And then immediately once these guys get on it, it's like the next level. It's, I think, like going to be a staple for our live shows for a time to come. And so, yeah, like that's been what's most exciting, at least to me, like hearing the songs recontextualized in a live setting and kind of hitting that level of achievement that I always was striving for, but just couldn't get there on my own.
No,
Andy, jump in.
I couldn't agree more. with that. I wasn't in the studio with Zach when he recorded these, but like as a fan of the band, even before I joined, I'd listened to Rounder, and of course, like I listened to I listened to Gold Star now, and just like hearing the difference between the Spotify versions or whatever music platform you use, and like what we were working on in the rehearsal studio, it's night and day for some of these songs, and I do love it. We have like, our drummers adding fills here and there. Like Mario is an incredible drummer, and our lead guitarist Gus can rip a solo like nobody else. So like having that ability to kind of like move in and out of the recorded version and onto our own, like Zach said with the Captain, we kind of just like rip a little jam session at the end, and it's like such a
Yeah.
fun song to play.
And I feel like a lot of times too, I get to almost like take a back seat, and a lot of times I'm just kind of doing additional like acoustic strumming on top, and being able to kind of like visualize these group of guys absolutely nailing everything, it like adds another thing to me where it's just like I become like a fan in that moment, and can kind of like remove myself from the situation.
Let's see here. How are we doing on time? Does it say for you guys how long it's been?
4:26. All right, so 1:26 your time.
So it's been like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
About 20, yeah, 15, 20 minutes.
All right. What?
Nothing, never mind.
Uh, let's do some wrap up questions. I'm trying to think of, God, I'm also really sorry. I'm like a little slow. I didn't wake up too long ago, so I'm like,
All good, all good.
my brain is waking up. So let's do you guys have a dream collab or like a dream jam session that like someone that you would love to join in on your jam session or collab with?
Who you got, Andy? I got a couple in my head, but
If you have a couple, go ahead, because I have a couple, but I want to think about maybe like one or two.
I think like living Dave Grohl on the kit behind us, and we have Mario on shaker or something, not to throw him out of the picture, but that's like an absolute number one, I think. Here we'll bop back and forth. You got one?
Pop back and forth. I think for some of the more vibier songs and like those synth laden songs on Gold Star, I'd love to have Tom Mish come in, sit in on a session, and just like get crazy with the pedal board.
That would be wild. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm a sucker for like the songwriters out there too. So like McCartney, like getting him on bass, like that would, I think a lot of like the bass lines that I try and come up with have that like groovier type stuff that he likes to add in. But yeah, I mean, like I love Brandon Flowers. Brandon Flowers sang a verse of one of ours. That would be another one. That would be wild.
That would be awesome. Doing something like the Paramore album where they like re-released it with
Oh yeah,
other artists
that was
covering their
awesome.
songs.
I know
That
that
would be so cool.
the Remy Wolf song on that record is so good too. If Remy Wolf could just
Masterpiece.
take a Morning Herald song and put it out as her own, that would be.
Oh my God, I would love that. I would love that.
Do you guys have a favorite? Favorite? I don't know if I want to do like favorite artist or because that's kind of hard, obviously. But like, what about like a favorite? Like, what's an album that you feel like from front to finish you can listen to and like you just get the vibe, you get what they're saying, like no skips, anytime, any day.
Going, Andy.
That's a good one. Off the top of my head, and it's probably not expected because it's like outside the genre, but To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar, like I think
Great
front to
answer.
back, one of the best stories in music ever told. Like
Wow.
I could listen to that album no matter the mood, no matter the time of the day, at any point. Front to back, no skips, every time.
Yeah, great album.
I like that. I'm gonna go The Suburbs, Arcade Fire.
Bro, wow.
One of my top faves. That's gotta be top 3 for me. So
Nice.
I think it feels like there's like a different song for every emotion that I want to feel.
Right?
And I'm like, It's a desert island pick for me.
That's
love
those
it.
are great answers. Yeah, holy shit. Like both very different, but and both for very different reasons, but
Mhm.
they make sense. Like it's like wow, like now I don't even know like if I had only those two to choose, gun to
Yep.
head, I don't know because like I love both for different reasons. That's a great wow, no, I'm gonna be thinking about those albums today for sure.
Awesome.
Marcus wanted me to ask you guys, what was it like to have Dr. Dog on the Lazy Eyes?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. And I owe a lot of credit to Headroom Studios, where I recorded both Rounder and Gold Star. They just have like a crazy alumni of artists that have passed through there. And like also are just the best people like in the business. Like I went down there in 2021 and kind of like spoke to them, being totally honest about the situation. Like I had never recorded in a legitimate studio before. But I had like the songs written. They were excited about them, and I basically came to them asking like, "Do you have musicians around that could back on the track if we needed it?" For the first record, I ended up having just one of their drummers, Shane Woods, step in and track the drums on the record. For this one, I was like, "All right, I kind of want to use as much of this bass as possible." So the engineer and producer who ended up co-producing the album, Mark Water, he basically just like put an ask out to anyone around the Headroom area. And that's where we got some really awesome musicians coming in. So like Liz DeLise was the lead guitarist on a lot of the solos of the record. We had a couple different keys people come in, but then that was another one too, where I kind of like put the ask out knowing that they knew a lot of the Dr. Dog guys, being like, if any of them wanted to come on the record, that would be awesome. And Mark just passed along that song Lazy Eye to Zach, their keyboardist. And he was like, yeah, I'll step in on it. I'll play some keys. So that was wild. I mean, yeah, I love Dr. Dog. They're great. And Philly legends and also just like indie music, celebrities. So incredible getting on the track. And like, honestly, that song is so different than anything we had put out before that I think him being involved also just takes us to the next level of like magic.
Word.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add to that?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Word. All right, awesome. Let's do before I do the last question, favorite movies.
Favorite
Ooh.
movies. Ooh.
Yeah.
Plural?
I would like one if you can choose one, but I know sometimes it's kind of hard. I get it.
Okay. I'm gonna go Midnight in Paris. Owen
Woo!
Wilson and Rachel McAdams.
Yep.
I'm an
Yeah,
English
yeah.
major. I'm like a literary nerd at heart, so Midnight in Paris
You
every time.
you must have loved when they were like F. Scott Fitzgerald, and then his wife was
Loved it.
dude.
Hemingway is, he's up there on my
Hemingway,
dream list of dinner people.
dude. That's yeah. Okay, I'll let Zach go. We can talk about this another time. Zach,
I
go
mean, no,
ahead.
I like that where that next question was heading. I think I gotta put like I watch it every year, but I love Jaws. Like that movie is so good, and
Wow.
I know it's like a cliche maybe to say it, but
No,
definitely in my top five.
Spielberg went through a lot with that movie, especially because he was so
Yeah.
young. And that's interesting that you say because he considered Jaws like the movie itself in a way. Like
Oh yeah.
it's just and then him being like, now that I'm an established director, I'm gonna kind of do it with Jurassic Park, but in a different like backdrop and different. What's next for you guys? So what it must be hard being an artist in New York City. Obviously, it's so packed. It's such a at least when I was doing stand up, it was tough. Like I get performing, open mics, all this. What's next for you guys? Do you have an album coming out? Do you have any performances coming up?
Yeah, I think with the album that we just put out less than 2 months in the past, I think right now like just committed to performance. And I think like we've been really lucky to have the first two like major gigs we've had with this iteration of the band be some really like amazing nights. And I think right now the initiative is like keep getting better and make sure that like every time that we're playing around the city, it's a must see show.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like it's becoming, and growing the fan base in New York, getting out, meeting other artists, playing different venues. That's definitely what we're focused on right now.
You guys have a show coming up soon?
We're working it out right now. I think it's going to be end of January or beginning of February right now.
Nice. And do you guys have any Spotify, like you guys are obviously on Spotify, do you have any other places that you guys like people can see YouTube or
Yeah. Anywhere people listen to music, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Tidal.
we
It's all out there. Yeah, we're another thing we're working on too this fall is or winter, we're gonna get some videos behind some of those too. So should start to
Yep.
see more of a visual components in the music as well.
And of
awesome.
course, we're always on Instagram, TikTok, Morning Herald.
For sure. There you go.
Great way
Forgot
to
about
stay up to date with the band.